Welcome to the Rap Soul Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of music that moves our hearts and gets our feet tapping. This is the intersection of rap and soul music from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. We appreciate you for listening. Share this podcast with a friend or family member who loves music as much as you do. The podcast is hosted by 12 Kyle. Next up, the Rap Soul Podcast.
Welcome to another edition of the Rap Soul Podcast. I am your host, 12 Kyle. Thank you for tuning in. If you found this podcast via the internet, thank you and welcome. If you found this podcast because of my co-host, thank you and welcome. If you just randomly found this podcast, thank you and welcome. This is the Rap Soul Podcast. This is the intersection where rap and soul music meet from the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. This is the best the best music podcast that you've never heard until now. On this episode, what I want to do is we're going to talk about diss records. At the time of this recording in 2024, a lot has been made about some diss records and some of our favorite MCs, and there's been a whole discussion about it. But on this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look back at our personal top 5 diss tracks, and we'll also have some honorable mentions as well. And I will not be doing this podcast alone. If you're watching on YouTube, salute to you. Thank you for watching. I have 2 special guests. My boys are in the building. First guest up is a father. He's an entrepreneur. He is one of the wealthiest men from Compton, California. My man, fellow podcaster, no stranger to the show, Uncle Dolemite is in the building. Dolemite, what's up?
Good evening, motherfuckers and motherfuckers. What's happening with y'all, man?
Chilling, man. Chilling. What's good?
Man, trying to be like y'all. Trying to get my wealth up so I could be like Baylor, Baylor, and the billionaire 12 Cal.
Hey, man. You got to fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah, I got to fake it. Y'all got it for real.
I ain't got it. And my next co-host, again, no stranger to the show, been a frequent contributor to the 12 Kyle podcast, fellow podcaster, father, husband, entrepreneur, my man BTG, Baylor the Great is in the building. Baylor, what's good, man?
It's the word, man.
You tell me, LA's finest.
I'm trying to be. I was just born here.
Hey, I got 2 California kids on this episode. And now they won't be biased, but they will give you their honest opinion. And more, and more importantly, we're all hip hop heads. So before we even get started, I want to just kind of take and pull the curtain back a little bit. Like, I've been waiting, and I've had these guys on my other podcast, the 12 Kyle podcast, but I had been contemplating as to how to bring them on this particular episode. And I hit Dolemite up the other day, and I said, man, I'm thinking about doing this. And he said, man, let's talk about diss records. I was like, okay, perfect, because I hadn't even thought about it. There's been a lot of diss records over the years, and dissing in hip hop is synonymous with hip. It's the king of the hill mentality. Before we get started with our list, I want to ask both of you, and Dolemite, I'll start with you first. A lot has been made about, at least from the younger generation, about what should be considered a diss as far as what's within the limits and what's out of limits. When it comes to dissing on wax, is there such thing as going too far?
Yeah. The reason that Drake got a whole lot of chinks put in his armor is because he went too far.
Mm-hmm.
Like, certain innocent bystanders should just be completely left alone. Meaning, women and children, leave them in the house. Like, you ain't got no business talking about them. Something else I'm not a big fan of is dissing dead people. Like, I feel like that should be off limits, because once we start talking about dead people, like, now we got to get into something that's beyond music.
Right. No doubt. What about you, Baylor?
It depends. Are you talking about rules and stuff like that?
Just any kind of rules to do you think that there's rules to, like, is there such thing as going too far?
is unwritten, so I gotta say no. I don't
Okay.
believe in rules when it comes to beef. Now, there's the unwritten rule that you leave certain things alone. But once you cross that line, now we in a different ball game. So now you got to handle that how it is. Because I don't want cats to go to a certain level and then start crying about it later.
Right.
You went there. You know what I mean? So you go there, you handle it there. And if you've been warned, that's even worse. So I gotta say no, because you don't have to engage. The public is gonna pressure you to. Your ego is gonna pressure you to, but you don't have to engage. So leave the family out of it, leave the dad out of it. But at the end of the day, if you go there, it's not a stop. I mean, we have seen certain cats get the towel thrown in for them,
Right.
but that he brought that to himself. So nah, ain't no rules when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
kind of the
'cause
same
that-
way. Go ahead, Dolan.
Yeah, cause that's really what I meant. Like, if you saying diss tracks, because it's like, how far do you want this disagreement to go?
Right.
If you want to keep it music, there's rules. Now, if you like, fuck this nigga, it's whatever, then no, it ain't no rules. Like, yeah, nigga, we can take it to the streets. Now, I could dish your dead mama, your brother who's sick in the hospital. Like, I can go crazy, but if you want to keep it music, you should keep it between me and you.
Facts. That's exactly where I was going. I think that's the thing this younger generation really didn't get. And you can't change the rule as you're playing the game. The rules are set usually within the first back and forth between who's ever dissing whom. So we keeping it on wax. We keeping it on wax. And that's as far as it's going to go. If it gets personal, then all bets are off. And I think we've seen some instances, and we probably will discuss a few on this episode where people went a little too far, but that's kind of what the game called for. So with that being said, man, we're going to get into our top 5 diss records. Do you guys have yours in any particular order, or does it really matter to you?
Yep.
Because I got mine 1 through 5.
So I got a number 1, but and after that, it don't matter.
Okay. Okay, so let's start there. Let's start at 5. Let's start at 5 and go down. Just tell us who you got and who they were going after and what you think about that particular song. So I'll start with you first, BTG. Who you got at 5?
Euphoria. Hopped up there quick, didn't it?
I didn't think it's gonna be that high.
No, I'm gonna tell you why. Because that's the one track during this whole beef that he actually walked him down on. You know what I mean? I think Meet the Grams is extremely disrespectful. I think Not Like Us is extremely disrespectful. I think 616 was dope. And even the verse in Like That was fire. But Euphoria, I caught myself playing Euphoria after Euphoria dropped. I ain't gonna even lie, I thought most of those records I wasn't gonna go back to like that. Like, I've been playing Euphoria about 3 or 4 times a day. Because it got so many quotables. So, and that was another thing. A song that has a lot of quotables to it that I could say, just like the movie Friday. Friday has a lot of quotables. There's movies, there's TV shows that has a lot of quotables. That diss track in general has a lot of quotables. The beat switch, obviously we know who it's against or who is towards. So yeah, I got Euphoria at 5 because I don't see me not playing that like I've been playing probably my number 1 and my number 2 of all time. I've been playing them like crazy. So I think this Euphoria is going to age just as well as number 2 and number 1.
And for you kids scoring at home, Euphoria, that was Kendrick Lamar, 2024 going against Drake. So that's who Baylor has at 5. What about you, Dolemite?
Hit him up. Hit him up barely made my top 5 too. And the only reason that it even made my top 5 was just on impact alone. Like, the song came out, damn near 30 years ago, and it's still a number 1 for a whole lot of people. So just on the fact of, pure impact, I got it up high. But on some real shit, like as a diss, I'm not a fan of it, but when I go according to the criteria that I have, I got to put it on the list. So I got it at 5 just on the fact that, 30 years later, it's still a discussion.
Okay, so let me piggyback off that before I give you my number 5. Going back to the well, not so much the disrespect, but the level that it went to. I mean, he starts off, "That's why I fucked your bitch."
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Is that
He could have stopped. He could have literally just stopped the beat and turned it off, because everything he pretty much said after that was damn near like we didn't even care. Because he did that. That was like probably at the time the biggest slap in the face we've ever seen in hip hop.
Ever.
Like we've even between like Dr. Dre and Eazy-E, like they beef really made it into the streets, but they didn't even go that hard on each other. Like it wasn't even to that level on they diss songs. So just on the fact that he started that song like that, the rest of the song is literally womp 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 womp.
I gotta agree.
It just was a nice song to bob your head to, honestly.
No doubt. That's a good. Baylor, did you want to weigh in on that?
Well, I was gonna wait till it came up in I got it in my top 5.
Okay. So we'll do that. My bad. But that's a very good point. My number 5, 1998, second round knockout, Cannabis. He was going at LL Cool J. This one is up there for me because if you know the story, Cannabis was on one of LL's songs. He had asked LL about the tattoo that he had on his arm, which was a microphone. And he asked him nicely, I guess, about borrowing he wanted to get a tattoo like that. And he's like, "Let me get that tat on your arm." And LL, being the egotistical young fella that he was at the time, took it as a diss. And LL did something that Cannabis addressed in the song that I thought was clever, was that he said, that was a bitch move. Like, you tore up your rhymes and rewrote your rhyme and dissed me on a track that you already had me on. That was a cardinal sin back in hip hop. You don't rewrite your rhymes after you hear somebody rhyme. Once you put it down, you put it down, and that's what it is. And because it was LL's song, he had the last go. So in essence, Cannabis found out he got dissed on LL's record when he heard the record. So he heard it the same time we did. The only saving grace for Cannabis at that particular time, because it was 1998 and there was no social media. That's the only saving grace. But I love this. I think, LL won that battle, if you will. But LL, at this particular time, he was a major, major player in hip hop. Cannabis was an up and coming mixtape rapper that was, kid with mad skills, and he was trying to make it to the next level. So I think even when the public looked at it, they looked at it like, well, LL's beating on this little dude and he's nobody. Basically, the rap community tried to dismiss him. But I think hip hop heads like us, I loved it. I thought it was a great comeback. I thought, Cannabis, I could have done without Mike Tyson on the song, but other than that, man, I loved it. I thought it was a dope comeback, and this is my number 5.
Yeah, and Ludacris did that to T.I. on that song Stomp, the Young Buck, where he dissed him on the song that he was on. But I forgot how they got it squashed. I think like Shaka reached out to T.I., so they could squash everything. But, he had already dissed him.
Yeah, they did, and I remember that beef too. It was the talk of the city in Atlanta, man. I remember that vividly.
And it was a trip because the second round knockout, like the whole beef between Cannabis and LL, when you think about the songs that Cannabis put out, I feel like they was a whole lot better than what LL put out. But, LL was like, it was like a nigga in a canoe trying to fight somebody on the Titanic.
No doubt. So let's move on to number 4. Dolemite, what you got at 4?
Last second switch too. I got Euphoria.
Okay.
At first I had The Truth there. Sorry to like preview that, because at first I had The Truth by Gucci Mane. But Euphoria. Just because, just like the point that Baylor made, like, we gonna be talking about this for a long time. And the only reason I got Euphoria is because I look at Not Like Us as almost like I guess like a B-side to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because without Euphoria, there would be no They Not Like Us. Like, I think They Not Like Us was literally like, I whooped them with Euphoria, so this is the celebration song.
Yeah.
So even though everybody's playing Not Like Us real crazy, Euphoria was the one that set it up for that, for that checkmate to even be placed.
Facts.
Yeah.
Big facts. Big
What
facts.
is it? The braids?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Like
funny.
that song was like all haymakers.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
that was
like, I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk. I hate the way that you dress. Like, just everything in the song was like, this nigga is going dumb.
He said, I'm the biggest
Gemini
hater.
side. He said, dog, he was like, look, you my friend. He my friend. But are y'all my real friends? If not, I'm gonna take out both. I'm gonna take out both of y'all.
Y&W Melly was crazy.
Yeah. People had to look that up to figure out what that bar meant.
Was crazy.
The people look past over like the subtle stuff that could have a lot of truth to it. He said, look, I like Drake with the melodies. I don't like the dude that act tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
everybody feel like that.
Yeah, even when he said, what is Pusha T's real name? Terrence
Thornton.
He Terrence Thornton. I'm Terrence Crawford. Yeah, I'm whooping feet. I said, oh my God. I'm like, oh
yeah,
my
fuck all that pushing
God.
P. Let me see you push it.
Pushing C.
And the way he said he was like, this nigga is going crazy.
And that was another warning. You better off pushing him before you come messing with me. He told you. He telling niggas, man.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, people don't understand that this, in my opinion, I agree with you guys. And I'll go ahead and tell you, it didn't make my top 5, but Euphoria, I think, it's his best diss record. Not Like Us will be the one that we forever remember because of the airplay and everything like that, and the pop out and the video and everything. But it's the best diss record that he released was Euphoria. It was 6 minutes ahead.
By far.
6 minutes ahead. Okay, so that was Baylor. Did you give us your 4?
That was 4.
This is my 4th one right here.
Okay, give me your 4.
Ether.
Okay,
so this was K Dot and Drake before K Dot and Drake. This is Nas versus Jay. This isn't the first person who has swung on Jay as far as diss track, but this is the one that landed and hurt the most because Pac was already gone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and they've always been in the circle of talk, the top 3, top 2, however you want to put it. You know what I'm saying? At one point, they was talking about Big and Pac. Jay was always around. Nas had started. All these cats came up from like the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, and Nas, to me, had a classic album that dropped in the early 90s.
Facts.
So, but, for the longest, Jay had, I mean,
what 2 classic albums do you think Nas dropped?
Illmatic and It Was Written.
Okay.
I feel like the West Coast, like, It Was Written more, and the East Coast, like, Illmatic more.
It is mind-boggling. And there is a podcast coming, a versus podcast, Illmatic versus It Was Written. It was mind-boggling to me as to how many people loved it. And it's not that I don't love it. I love It Was Written. But a lot of people have it as a classic. And I did not know until like 3 or 4 years ago. I was surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it's people forget and they flip flop the same way they talked about Jay's 444. It's the same way they talked about the Big Steppers. It's the same way they talk about Nas' second album. It's all the same thing. You know what I mean? But at the time, nobody had swung at Jay and connected like that. It came out of nowhere. Again, we don't have social media. So the reason why Drake and Kendrick's battle was so dope and is considered probably one of the best ever is because we got so many tracks back to back to back in such a short span where this beef between Jay and Nas this was spread out. You know what I'm saying? So to get that track out of nowhere randomly, and it was word of mouth. It was you couldn't go to the internet or you couldn't go to Twitter or IG and see the track is somebody posted the track. No, you had to go to the local CD man who was burning stuff at his crib. I need that. You know what I'm saying? And we ran that back over and over and over again. And it was a big shot at Jay. And it stuck because that just like Randy Moss has a saying that we use everywhere, Kobe has a saying that we use everywhere. Ethered is, that's a household word now.
Facts. Big facts. Yeah, my 4, we're going to keep it on Jay-Z, but we're going to go Takeover. Takeover was something that really, it had been brewing for a while. And I want to, kind of break this down for people who may not have been around or may not have been outside. Takeover had been brewing for a while. Nas and Jay had traded subliminal shots on a couple of songs, a couple of mixtapes over the years. And there was a brewing faction between their 2 fan bases. And they had huge fan bases. And they had some like me who were fans of both, but they had some people that really rock with Jay. They had some people that really rock with Nas. And so obviously everybody knows part of Takeover, Jay goes at Mobb Deep, Prodigy in particular. And then the other half is for Nas. Well, he premiered the diss for Prodigy at the Summer Jam and put Prodigy on the Summer Jam screen. Prodigy, who used to do ballet in his, I think, grandmother's studio or something like that. Somehow they found a picture. So they prop it up and Jay does his first verse and he ends the verse with, "Ask Nas, he don't want it with Hov." And people go crazy because that's the first time Jay-Z has ever mentioned Nas's name in a song. And you fast forward a couple of months later, Nas drops a freestyle. I think it was on a Clue tape. And he goes at Jay-Z and everybody in Rockefeller. And that was the preview for what was going to be Takeover. Takeover comes out on the is 9/11 because it was on the Blueprint album. And This is the first time that we hear the entire verse. And I just remember sitting there just with my mouth open like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, you're excited, but you're also like, I thought, and I say it all the time and it's worth repeating, I thought it was over for Nas. Me and a lot of my friends, we thought it was over for Nas. And it literally took a minute for Nas to come back. Like you said, Baylor, without the benefit of social media, there's no pressure. So honestly, even living through that time, I don't know how much, I guess it was like maybe 6 or 7 months, but it seemed like an eternity for him to come back. But Takeover, man, that was special. I mean, and Jay was on his shit at that point because he's 4 albums in. And, Blueprint was a smash. And, a lot of people refer to it as a classic. And it was a very much beloved album. And so to get that song on there is incredible.
I feel like that was his first instant classic.
Hey, he did it. He had a lot, and I think I remember the lead up to it. Dame was talking on this when he and Dame were tight. Dame was talking about how he and Kanye recorded all the songs in like 2 or 3 days or something like that. It was crazy. Like they finished the album in like a week and a half or something like that.
That's crazy.
But all right, so we're at number 3. Dolemite, what you got at 3?
3, I got 300 bars by the game.
Okay. 300 bars by the game.
300 bars was crazy because 300 bars could have been 5 songs and they all would have been cold.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was going crazy. Like that, it was that song that I was like, this dude is like, he different. I was like, at the time that I heard it, I had it at number 1.
Okay.
Because I was just like, it ain't nobody been able to go. This song is 15 minutes. And it wasn't like 15 minutes worth of filler. Like it wasn't like he was just like, yeah, and then I got the blue Rolls Royce. And I be riding up and down the street. Like, it was 15 minutes of straight hatred.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had never heard nothing like that up to that point. And like it was bars. Like the whole song, you just sitting here listening, like, what?
Right.
What? Because like I say, like Game, he got a messed up reputation because he's a clown. But you can't take nothing from him as far as in that booth. Like rap wise, like he deserved his spot on Mount Rushmore out here. Like if not up there, like he's standing, he got a statue like down on the ground somewhere as you walk up to look at Mount Rushmore. Like he's up there because like he done some things up in the booth. So I got 300 bars at number 3.
And for those of you scoring at home, Game goes at 50 Cent and the G Unit Click in 300 bars. Baylor, what you got for number?
I was on the G Unit mixtape.
Yep, G Unit mixtape. What you got at 3, Baylor?
I got to hit him up.
Okay.
I got to hit him up solely for the ending. I can remember all the rapping. I ain't gonna even lie to you. Even the Outlaws, I can remember all of it. Get out the way, yo, get out the way. I can remember all that. But the ending, the venom that he was talking. Oh yeah, Mobb Deep. Yeah, y'all want to jump in
Fuck
this
you too.
Yeah, so yeah, and then at the time, we never switched up. That's one thing that when I say I'm West Coast biased, I'm dead serious. We never switch up. And there was no, you had a couple of cats walking around the city that wanted to be different or was just authentically different. They listened to more East Coast than West Coast because they was never really around a sound like that. And that's cool. But during that time, when it was that East Coast versus West Coast, there was no, I think I'm going to pick this side. No. When I say the East Coast, no disrespect, because I got a lot of East Coast family that's blood and East Coast family that I met, right? I'm mainly talking about New York when I say East Coast. You could throw Philly in there, you could throw Florida, whoever else is on that side of town. But when I say the East Coast, I'm mainly talking about New York.
Yeah, because you can literally just say the LA New York beef, because it wasn't like the Bay Area was dissing Florida.
Yeah, it ain't like Philly got in the middle of it or something.
Seattle wasn't going at nobody in the DMV. Like
right. And at the time there was no, when you like fast forward to the Drake and Kendrick, I would say there was probably majority of the cats in New York was rooting for Drake. So you see what I'm saying? And he's not even from our country. But when it came down to one of ours, there's no question, bro. We riding for the city, state, coast, zip code, whatever you want to come up with. We stick and we not fake with it, because Game was going at Rick Ross. I didn't care about none of that. I didn't care who made the better record. I didn't care who had the better jokes.
Right.
But when it comes to the cast that we respect on a certain level, yeah, there is no which side you pick. We already know what side we on, and you had to pick a side. It was already a thing, and I wasn't flying like crazy back then, so it wasn't one of those. Oh, when I touch down in New York, I gotta watch myself. But that's how it felt though to a lot of artists. That when they went over there, they had to protect themselves. Vice versa, you know what I mean? So that's why I gotta hit them up at number 3, because that was probably, and it's number 1. Universal between that and another song, but Hit 'Em Up will always be between 1 and 2. But I got it at 3.
So let me piggyback off that. This was what, 95, 96. So you weren't, because I'm 10 years older than both of you. You weren't like in Pampers or anything, but you had a sense as to, what outside was like. Dolemite's from Compton, Baylor's from LA. Do you remember what the talk was like in your neighborhood amongst your friends? Because I know, like, I was in college at the time at South Carolina State University. Shout out to my alma mater, since y'all say I shout it out every episode.
Take a shot.
Take a drink, take a shot. But I was in college, and so in college, particularly at a black college, it's a big mix of people from different places, and obviously we had a lot of cats from New York. So, like you said, Baylor, you had to pick a side. Like there was no, oh, I like Pac, oh, I like Big. I was a huge fan of both. I didn't want to pick a side, but I was mad at Pac. I was mad at Pac for a couple of reasons.
Keep in mind, while I was still repping West Side, West Coast, whatever, it was just strictly West. Nigga, I was still listening to all of them.
Oh yeah, no question.
I was listening to all of them.
Listen, you're talking to somebody who, and there's an upcoming podcast. The love that I have for West Coast hip hop is unmatched. As far as particularly somebody who came from the South, who grew up in the South, just a hip hop head, and that was the music. That was some of the songs and the movement that I gravitated towards, and I talk about it in detail in that particular episode, in talking about my favorite 5 from L.A. What about you, Dolemite? What was your take on what was going on at that time, what you were maybe hearing in school and hearing in the neighborhood?
The same thing Baylor said, but there was no other selection. Like, if you said anything other than you was riding with Pac, you probably would have got your ass whooped. Like, just to be real, like, I don't care how much you like Biggie's music, nigga. Like, we not finna do that. Like, that's like the West Coast thing. Like how I said about Game. Like, the reason that Game is not gonna be at the Super Bowl, the reason he wasn't at the pop-up is because you don't never do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, because it wasn't even that he stayed neutral. Like, he was kind of like, he said Game is my brother. Well, he said Drake is my brother, Kendrick is my homie. Nigga, you always gonna put your brother over your homie.
And he didn't have to say anything. He didn't have to say nothing.
Exactly. And the thing is, he's a wordsmith. So he knew what he was saying when he said what he said. Like, ain't nobody never gonna accuse Game of like mincing his words and, oh, I misspoke. No, nigga, you didn't misspoke. You know exactly what you said when you said that.
Right.
That's the reason you getting treated how you getting treated. So like with us, I was a bigger fan of Biggie's music. Honestly, as a kid, like, I loved Ready to Die. Like, I was playing that shit in heavy rotation. Pac, I kind of was like, he cool. I didn't really like him until All Eyes on Me and Machiavelli. Like, them was some classics, but at the same time, like, I was a bigger fan of Biggie's music. But if you asked me in that time, oh yeah, Pac. Like, it wasn't even like a sit there and think about it. Like, nigga, I'm never gonna go against the crib.
Right.
Same with the clip that you sent me of DeMar DeRozan. Like, you don't go against the crib, homie. Like, that's just not in. That's nobody from the West Coast finna switch on Game.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I always found interesting. Even back then, even before all of this stuff blew, and I know where it comes from. Particularly out west, it's because much like the South, there was a need to stick together because in hip hop, particularly as it went from being rap to hip hop, New York shitted on everybody who wasn't from New York. And you talking like mid to late 80s, you couldn't, they looked at, groups like Two Live Crew as novelty acts. And so like you weren't really respected as MC. So even as we pivoted into the 90s, the early 90s, you take a group like Outkast, they were going to be disrespected because they didn't think rappers from the South could rap. Early 90s, you go out west, you got Snoop and Dre, and you have this whole movement being pushed forward, and it's always been pushed off to the side. Even when you go back to NWA, New York kind of pushed that to the side. Well, I don't want to say New York as far as rappers, but as far as fans, they pushed it to the side because they didn't respect it. And then it became so heavy and so prevalent, you didn't have a choice. You had to either get down or lay down, one of the two. I think that was a very interesting and pivotal point in hip hop, to be honest. My number 3, you guys were a little too young for this one. 1987, The Bridge Is Over. Boogie Down Productions.
I was 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was born.
Yeah, I got all of that.
Yeah, I got that as one of my honorable mentions.
That's in my honorable mention. Yeah.
Listen, this was one that I did not know. Obviously, it's KRS-One BDP going at MC Shan and all of Queens and Queensbridge. I had no idea like how big this was in New York City because again, we're not privy to social media. I'm a little kid in South Carolina. I think I might have been in middle school at the time, or I might have been right about to go to high school, and so I had no idea. Like, and what I want people to understand, particularly those who are younger, KRS-One was a nobody when this song came out. So if MC Shan never responds to this song, we never know who KRS-One is. But he dissed him. I mean, just imagine at this particular time, Shan was a god in Queens. Now, he wasn't that big nationwide or whatever as far as a rapper, but in Queens, he was a god. And you get this young punk out of the Bronx, and he's talking this shit to you, and you're on this throne, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to diss this guy back. And what he did was he ingratiated himself into a beef that he ended up losing, and KRS-One became the star, and Shan kind of, not that he was whack or anything like that, but he wasn't what KRS-One ended up being. And I always thought that was interesting because he really didn't have to say anything, but, hip hop is a sport. You guys, talked about that a little earlier. It's a sport, and, it's the king of the hill. I'm on the hill. If you knock me off the hill, I'm coming back. So I got that at 3, man. I love that joint to this day.
Yeah, and I think pride was a lot of it too.
Oh, no question.
Because like you said, he could have literally just been like, nigga, I can't hear little niggas. Get your weight up before you come over here with that.
Well, the thing is, I'm gonna piggyback off of the ego thing. When you just don't go after the person, but you go after his area, that's major. Because that's what we do out here. I've been doing it in high school. I went to Fremont, so our rivals was Crenshaw and Dorsey. My bad. So that's I really didn't mean that. I was gonna
your wife gonna kill you.
Whoa, man, it's so natural because we call Crenshaw coleslaw. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it look. And as much as I love Nip, because you already know where I got Nip ranked at on my all-time West Coast list, right?
Right.
I can't wear nothing that says Crenshaw on it. I'll never wear anything that says if
your rival.
If it has his face and it might have a Crenshaw wording on it or a shirt that he's wearing in the shirt, then okay. But I'll never buy the Crenshaw sweater. I'll never wear the Crenshaw beanie. I'll never wear the Crenshaw socks. I went to the Mont, bro. That's out. That's out. East side. I can't do that one. But yeah, the Dorky Dons, them niggas too. They know what it's up, nigga. My town, bro. That's what it is. So when he said the bridge is over, I said, oh, this nigga is wild. You know what I'm saying? You talking, that's more than just one MC you talking about. You talking about his family, his friends, and the corner store.
The whole borough. Queens took it personal. And in a lot of ways, Queens didn't recover for a long time. I had no idea. It didn't recover for a long time. And they take that shit serious. They take it very serious. All right, so we're down to the top 2. Dolemite, what you got at 2?
Ether.
And
again, it's another impact pick. Because it's not so much of the scathing diss, nigga, you called the nigga ugly. It wasn't like he was saying no hell of a shit. It's just the fact that it was more about the players involved than what they did. It was like the Thriller in Manila. Even if it wasn't the greatest fight you've ever seen, nigga, just the fact that it was Ali and Frazier in that motherfucker,
right.
Sometimes it's more about who's involved than what happens in the ring. And I feel like that's what Ether was. Ether was Jay-Z at the top of his game. This was literally probably the only point that I can think of in Jay-Z's career where he was that dude. Because never in Jay-Z's career, honestly, can we say he was the top of the top of the top. When the Blueprint dropped, we can argue that Jay-Z was the hottest nigga in hip hop.
He was in his prime.
But when Ether came out, it was oh shit, that nigga fucked you up. You know,
Yeah.
to the point where, like I said, only thing I got on my list is winning diss tracks. You know, because honestly, I felt like Super Ugly was a better diss, but at the same time, it was like too little, too late. So, you know, I got Ether at number 2 just on impact alone. Like, again, you know, we still talking about it, and every time you mention diss songs, like Baylor said, it became a verb.
Yes. You got ethered.
Yeah.
What about you, Baylor?
I'm glad you asked. No Vaseline
Okay.
at number 2. Yeah.
I can't wait to hear this nigga's number 1.
Oh,
Yeah, me too.
my God. Hey, look. No Vaseline. You scrapping with the homies, and you called them out. Oh, y'all yelling all that Compton shit, but you moved to Riverside. For those people that don't know, Riverside is a much, much safer place than Compton. As a matter of fact, niggas a lot of dangerous places that's safer than Compton. Okay? And them niggas move 50 minutes to an hour plus back east. And he called his homies out. He said, I'm not going for all this. And it was crazy because, I mean, Ice Cube is a top 3 rapper in my book all time. And he stood on his own. And he did some of the work for them niggas. So that's why I got it. That's why I got it number 2. And from time to time, I use No Vaseline in my category. That's crazy what I do.
When you say in your in what category?
In my category. If I'm playing the game, or
okay,
if we actually hooping or something like that, or if I heard somebody, you know, something went wrong with somebody, I'm like, damn, no Vaseline. That's crazy. With no Vaseline. Now I don't say it as much as ether,
right,
or something like that, but nah. And we know what that was. You took your homies in the backyard and caught a fade with each and every one of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
there was no rebuttal.
And beat their ass.
No rebuttal.
Yeah, I'm with Dolemite. I got ether it too. There aren't many times as a hip hop fan where I can say I didn't have a response. I didn't have a response because we literally thought Nas was dead. Not, you know, because it had gone so long, and he had really. I guess the best way I can describe it is that it's better. It's a good thing that Nas didn't have to go through social media, because people would have killed off his career. They'd have been like, "Oh, you washed, you done, whatever," and they would have pressured him to come back. And Nas was going through a lot of stuff at the time. I think his mom was ill with cancer and about to pass away, and you know, he was going through things with his girl or whatever like that. And he goes and he's away for 6 to 8 months, and he comes back with Ether. And I remember the first time I heard it, my homeboy played it for me on the phone. And I could, like you said, Baylor, you had to go get it, because it wasn't like you could just press a button and find it. So my boy played it for me over the phone, and I was like, I couldn't really understand and hear everything he was saying. I was catching every other word. And I was like, yeah, this is okay. He's like, yo, no, he killed Hov. He killed. I was like, no, he didn't. And at this time, again, I'm a big Jay-Z fan. I'm a big Nas fan. But I'm thinking Nas, there's no coming, because in my mind, there was no coming back from Takeover. There just was no coming back from it. And so when I finally got a chance to actually sit down and hear it, I didn't have any words. I was like, yo, this dude, and like you said, Dolemite, nobody had punched Hov before. Jay-Z had not taken any punches. He had pretty much run scot-free in hip-hop. And Nas hit him with a knockout. He didn't knock him out, but he knocked him. He stumbled him. And I didn't, now contrary, other than, like you said, Dolemite, I'm a little bit reversed as far as Super Ugly. I didn't like Super Ugly. Jay-Z, I felt like Jay-Z came with Super Ugly as a response, because he knew that it was going to be a response to Ether. He left a cliffhanger saying on Takeover, you know who did who know what with you know who, let's keep that between me and you. And, you know, just let Nas know, hey, you know that I banged your baby mama. But Jay-Z's own mama told him, like, nah, dog, you gotta relax. And yeah. I think when he got that, he knew. And then they did, you know, this big poll and stuff and called it. I mean, to this day, people think that Jay-Z won. He didn't win. And the whole Vengers.
Who said he won?
The whole Vengers. You ain't seen the whole Vengers on on TikTok and Instagram.
That's like the Drake fans that still trying to say Drake won. Like,
oh, there's some of them out there too. As crazy as it sounds,
people like that get no acknowledgement. Like,
nah, you can't because it's just like it's like why, but yeah,
because even as a fan, like if you were objective Jay-Z fan, you know he lost.
Mm-hmm. You have to be because yeah, he didn't win. So yeah, that I think Dolemite, you and I got the same number one. So I'm gonna kick it to Baylor. Baylor, what you got at number one?
Hey, so California in general has the biggest adoption agency, right? We adopt a lot of people outside of California. 3 of our classic West Coast artists are from different states. You know what I'm saying? We got cats from Jersey, New York, Philly. We're gonna stick with Philly right now. This was one of the smoothest diss tracks of all time. And the video went with it. They even said the East Coast, New York, even had a response to it. That did nothing, right? And they also said they had a different one too, right?
I'm lost.
Oh, I know exactly.
You ain't never heard of New York, New York?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You said Philly. I'm like, who
Well,
out of
Corrupt
Philly?
is from Corrupt.
I thought he was
Philly.
gonna say calling out names. Honestly,
No, Corrupt is from Philly. But what a lot of people don't realize is that he was really the only one that was on that track. I mean, outside of Snoop talking and stuff like that and singing. But no, New York, New York. I could play that. That's my favorite diss track to play in the fall. You know what I'm saying? It's 63-degree weather. I got the windows cracked a little bit. Dog, I could pull up to any establishment playing that. You know what I'm saying? And it's still smooth.
that's a left field.
And we kicked down the buildings, though. See, I
feel like the video was way more than the video, song.
The video. See,
video
this is how.
it.
This is why I like New York, New York so much. Because it wasn't. This wasn't hit 'em up. This wasn't right at you. This wasn't no Vaseline. This was like, no, we could do exactly what y'all do. And we're going to kick down y'all buildings while we do it.
What up, God? What up, God?
Talking just like them. Because we all get mocks. And they don't like that. And that's what I love the most. New York, New York. Dog.
That's crazy.
Okay. Curveball. I didn't expect that one. What you got at one, Dolemite?
No Vaseline.
Yeah, same. No Vaseline.
Like, it ended one of the greatest groups of all time. Like, after No Vaseline, there were no more NWA albums. There was no, like, diss track to reply to it. It didn't spawn a great beef. It basically was him saying, like, nigga, I'm better than all y'all put together, nigga.
Mm-hmm.
And it, like, they couldn't do nothing but respect it. Like, it just was like, well, he's right.
Right.
We gonna go do other things. Like, nigga, Dre and Easy, they dissed each other. They was like, nigga, we ain't gonna say nothing to that nigga. We ain't even gonna give him a footnote in our diss songs. Like, we gonna act like that shit didn't even happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't even acknowledge that shit in other diss songs that came out after that. Like, the album that Eazy-E put Real motherfucking G's on was a diss album. That motherfucker had like 4 other diss songs to Dre. At no point did them niggas acknowledge Cube in any of that shit. Like, them niggas act like No Vaseline didn't even happen.
Wow.
Like, that's how cold that shit was. Like, and then the scene in the movie was like the nail in the coffin. Like, it made the diss song even that much more cold to know that them niggas was all sitting together listening to that shit with their face twisted up. That made it even colder.
Hilarious. Yeah, I agree 1,000%, man. It when he said, I never have dinner with the, because I remember Eazy-E going to have dinner with George Bush. It made the news. I mean, I'm sorry, Ronald Reagan.
It wasn't Ronald Reagan?
No, it would have been, let me see, Reagan. It might have been Bush. No. It might have been Reagan. Shit, I can't even remember.
It was Ronald Reagan.
Okay, I know he went to have dinner with the president. Because we were trying to figure out, like, how in the world does Eazy-E sit down? Because, we're thinking literally he's sitting at dinner just the two of them. You know, you're not thinking about dignitaries and all the stuff like that. We were young
you
kids.
was right. It was Bush.
It was Bush. Okay, the first Bush, not Lil Bush. But yeah, man, there was no comeback from it. There was no comeback. There was nothing they could say. And, you know, Ice Cube is one of my favorite MCs of all time. I think he's a top 10 MC. And ain't too many MCs I'll debate about. I'll debate about Ice Cube, particularly early Ice Cube. Hey, very few can fuck with him.
You know what's crazy? Like, sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
go ahead.
the thought just came to my head. My first time hearing No Vaseline, and Baylor could probably attest to this, the ice cream truck was playing it. we used to have a slush truck where they would have like the sour gummy worms and like the sour licorice sticks and shit. That's the first time I heard that shit. And when that nigga said Easy E would be hanging from a tree with no Vaseline, just imagine a little bit of gasoline, light them up, burn them up, flame on, and that Jerry curl is gone. Me and all my homeboys, I got Easy E on my shirt. I got a picture of Easy E in my house, like a 3-foot big portrait of Easy E. He was my hero. And to hear that line, I fell out laughing. I couldn't not laugh. That shit was like the funniest shit I had ever heard in my life at the time.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was a huge fan of NWA, and I really wasn't sure how things were going to go because, you know, back then, R&B groups broke up. Rappers didn't break up from the groups that they were with, so we didn't know what Ice Cube was going to do when they dissed them, and it was like, okay. And then, you know, we had heard things. I didn't know that he was going to go to New York and work with the Bomb Squad, but I didn't know who was going to produce his stuff because I knew Dre had done, you know, most of his stuff up to that point as far as the group was concerned. So you didn't know how his album was going to look. We didn't even know if he was going to succeed, but I mean, that pen, Ice Cube pen was unmatched, particularly back then, man. So No Vaseline, like I said, is my favorite diss track. I think it's the best diss track. It was, like you said, it was no response. And he basically ended the career. And Dolemite, I didn't even know what you just said about Eazy-E having a diss album and not even mentioning, I didn't even know he had a diss album. I know Real Motherfucking Jesus on something, but I don't think I've ever heard. I know I've never heard that album before.
It's like 187 Dr. Dre Killer.
Okay.
That's the name of the album that it was on.
Wow. Never even heard of it until today. Wow. That's crazy. So yeah, we have completed our 1 through 5. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and on the other side of the break, we'll come back and we're going to give you some of our honorable mentions and wrap the show up. It's your boy 12 Kyle, the Rap Soul Podcast with Uncle Dolemite and BTG, Baylor the Great. We'll be back in just a second. Are you feeling nostalgic for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul Podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shaped the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast and enjoy the vibes. And just like that, we are back. Once again, it's your boy 12 Kyle, the Rap Soul Podcast. This is the intersection of rap and soul music from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. We're talking about the best diss tracks, and I got my boys in the building, Dolemite and Baylor. So before the break, we gave you our 5. So now we're going to run through some of our honorable mentions before we wrap up the show. So I'm interested, Baylor, you said you only had 1 honorable mention. What do you have for your honorable mention?
I wrote down 3 more. I got 4. Okay. Pusha T, Exodus 23:1.
Woo.
That's when you walk down Lil Wayne.
Listen.
Lil Wayne never said nothing after that.
Could he?
Shut up. And had a video to it too. So I mean, the video wasn't disrespectful, but yeah, that song was hard.
I listened to that today. That joint is still cold.
Yeah, them niggas ain't down for it. Yeah, he hurt his feelings. He said, "Hey, you signed to one nigga that signed to this nigga that signed to three niggas. Now that's bad luck."
And Kendrick came back and kind of reversed it and said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
What else you got?
Yeah. Oh yeah, DJ Quick, Dollars and Cents. Definitely gotta have that one up there. Quick is the name. Oh yeah, we talked about it earlier. The Bridge is Over.
Mm-hmm.
Had that one, and then my last one is definitely a curveball. Matter of fact, this motherfucker is not a curveball; it's a change up. I got Mariah Carey.
Obsessed?
Obsessed.
Wow.
Yeah, because that's the only. Technically, that's the only battle Eminem lost. Oh
I don't even think I've ever heard that song before.
Oh, go listen to it. It's pretty good.
I'll check it
You
out.
ain't never heard that song?
No, dog. I didn't want to. I'm not much.
She
an
had
Eminem
another
fan.
diss song to him with Gucci Mane on it too.
Say
And the
word.
Dream
Wow.
wrote it.
Yeah, she had a diss song to him with Gucci Mane on it. And my homeboy was like, "Oh man, Gucci Mane in trouble." I said, "Gucci Mane is never in trouble."
No, never. Gucci Mane gonna be good wherever he is. Trust me.
Exactly.
No, I liked it because it wasn't a lot of people that was, going at M like that. You know what I mean? And M was in his era where he was picking on boy bands and
Yeah.
pop singers and stuff like that. Mariah's like, "Dog, you've been on my bumper for a while, bro, and you've been lying too." So like,
Did he
what
ever
is it?
Did he ever smash?
He said he did. She said he didn't.
Here's the thing though. It's the industry. If we not in the
He
know,
smashed.
we'll never know, and we don't know. I'll leave it at that. He probably did.
I think he probably did too.
Yeah,
but,
I think he
just on
probably
the
did,
fact
too.
that she's such a huge star, she can lie and say he didn't. It's like,
Exactly.
who got the bigger microphone?
Exactly. What you got for your honorable mentions, Dolemite?
I got a lot, dog.
Hey, run them down, man. We can talk about them.
Okay, look, because some of these I gotta put two in the same like category. Like I got Dre Day and Real Motherfucking G's together.
Okay.
Because I kind of feel like it was a push. My bias says Real Motherfucking G's, but it's like you can't say one without mentioning the other. Like nobody said nobody won. Like it wasn't like niggas like, "Oh man, that nigga ended Eazy-E with that shit," and vice versa. Like it was like, both niggas threw a cold ass punch, and then they just, we hate y'all hate us. Fuck you.
I definitely would agree that to me it might be a tie, but I definitely say this more than anything. Motherfuck Dre, motherfuck Snoop, motherfuck Death Row. Here comes my left. I say that shit all the time. I say that shit while I'm brushing my teeth on a Tuesday in February.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, because even like when What Would You Do came out, that motherfucker was a banger. But when that nigga said fuck BG Knockout, we was like, oh yeah, we gonna kill this nigga. Like
that baseline so cold.
He got us fucked all the way up.
Right.
Because like I said, nigga, that's my neighborhood. That's my real personal friend.
Right.
Like, if y'all check some of my posts on social media, you'll see him in the comments on some of my posts. Like BG Knockout is really my homie. So when he said that, it was like, oh yeah, nigga, it's real now.
No doubt. Shout out BG Knockout.
We rarely just focus on one person.
Yeah, like, so for him to say that, it's like, oh, that's what we doing. Okay, we in the street with this one. And then another honorable mention, I got The Truth. Gucci Mane,
yeah.
Because it's like that, again, like when you got a beef where it's something that happened in the streets and you talking about it, like, dig your homeboy up.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like that was like peak disrespect.
This was Gucci Mane and Jeezy, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah. That was like so far beyond, like that was beyond what Pac said to Biggie.
Yeah.
Like, Gucci will never be Pac, but if Pac had actually smoked one of Biggie homie, like that's the only way that Pac could have topped the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after that I got back to back.
Okay.
You know, back to
Drake.
back, like because it damn near won a Grammy. Like it pretty much ended Meek Mill.
I was gonna
Like,
say, I
Meek
think
Mill,
it did. I think it did.
Meek was never the same. Like it didn't end his career, but it definitely ended him as being in the conversation of top rappers at the time. Like Meek was in that conversation. Like Meek was about where Big Sean is right now.
Right.
Like, oh, you know, he ain't in the top 3, but you know, maybe 1 or 2 classic albums and we'll bring him up. Not no more. Like, nigga, you are, nigga, you D-list now. Like that dropped him down to like
girls tour.
exactly. Like, nigga, he became a footnote. Then I got the Bridges over after that. You know, goes without being said. Should be higher, but some of these is like, you know, the Bridges over was so far into the past, and it, you know, not to say it didn't age well, but at the same time, like a lot of people, you got to be like a real hip hop fan to even know about it. You know, and then after that, I got the story of Adi Don, cause that was Drake's first like real.
We found out about his baby mama and his baby.
Exactly. Like
And
that
he
was
hiding a
spoiled the
child.
Adidas- and he spoiled the Adidas rollout.
You are hiding a
Exactly,
child.
yeah. Like I said, like when you said Pusha T, I thought you was finna say Adi Don. I'm like, yo. You know, and then my last one, because I can go all day, but I'm going to just cut it at this, Checkmate by Jadakiss going at 50 Cent.
Yeah.
Like,
that was
That's
tight
one of my
too.
favorites too, yeah.
Jadakiss to me is one of the most underrated diss
Hey,
rappers.
the nigga said, never the king of New York. You live in
You're the king of
Connecticut.
Connecticut.
That nigga said, you live in Connecticut.
And Jada never lost. He's
like,
never lost the beef either. He ain't lose no beef
he ain't never lost a versus battle neither.
either.
And we had, like, when I saw that, when it was Dipset versus the Lox, I thought Dipset was finna smoke the Lox.
I didn't think that.
Not me,
but full
dog.
disclosure, I'm not a big Dipset fan. So,
Nah,
but I was like,
was.
they
I
gonna
am a
wax them
Dipset
dudes.
fan.
I was, nigga.
But I'm biased
Dipset
towards
had
LOX,
niggas on the West Coast wearing pink.
Listen, that whole
Like, niggas was wearing pink polos in Compton because of Dipset.
I respect Dipset and I respect the movement and I know how big the movement was. I just never could get into them dudes, man. I just couldn't.
You was too old. Yeah, you was too old. Like, you was a grown man.
Oh yeah, grown.
Like
Mortgage, kids, wife.
that was like teenager music. Like
Okay.
that would be like you being like a Uzi fan in your 30s. Like,
Yeah,
That ain't gonna happen.
You probably was in your 30s. You probably was in your
like
mid, yeah.
it was definitely music for our group because when Dipset was out, we was all like 16, 17.
Okay. So
You know,
yeah,
me and Baylor the same age. So you
I
was
was growing.
26, 27. You was a grown ass man,
Yeah, I was
probably
growing,
paying a
yeah.
mortgage already.
yeah, about to get married. Yeah.
Yeah, like you was a full grown man. So it would be like when Soulja Boy came out and I was like 26 and niggas was you and I'm like,
Yeah.
nigga, get the hell out of here,
Get the
man.
fuck out of here with that.
You know, it's like Lil Bow Wow. Like niggas 10 years younger than us, Bow Wow is like
They
up
love
here
Bow
with them.
Wow,
While we
yeah.
was like, nigga, I'm a grown ass man. I don't listen to no damn Bow Wow.
Hell, why am I
But if
listening to Bow Wow?
if you 32 right now and
Mm-hmm.
we bringing up Bow Wow, you like, nah, man, you wasn't outside for Bow Wow. No,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't outside. I was in the rental office paying my rent.
Right.
You know, so like with you wasn't tripping off Dipset, but like me and Baylor's generation is like, nigga, Dipset had us dressing different.
Wow.
That was an era. So when that verses came up, I'm thinking like these niggas from the dog walk the Lox. And then to watch that verses, I'm like, this nigga Jadakiss on a different level, dog.
Whole from the beginning.
Personal top 5.
From the beginning, and speaking of verses, and I meant I forgot about mentioning when you mentioned Jeezy and Gucci. That verses they did. Hey,
When
I
that
thought
nigga
somebody was
played
gonna
the
get,
truth,
bro. I thought somebody was gonna get shot,
we smoking on Pookie Low.
and they cut the music, and he was like, "We smoking on Pookie Loc." I was like, man, you can't keep saying that, bro.
But
Hey, somebody
what
gonna
you
get
call
killed
it,
tonight.
He was so far gone, like you could tell he was already changing into like the business persona at that time. So
But you know what the thing is.
But I also think it's like you don't play with somebody who you know will really hit you.
Exactly.
That's what I honestly think it was. Like sometimes you gotta realize like if somebody got a pit bull in the yard, you knock on their door to get your ball. You don't hop that fence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like even that whole thing, because I remember hearing about unfortunately the young brother that got killed. And you know the thing about it, Atlanta and living here, particularly as long as I've lived here, is that you know that there's rap shit and then there's street shit. And you do your best to stay out of the street. You can do the rap shit all day, but the street shit, you have to separate the two because even though it's a big city, it is a relatively small city to the point where people like Gucci and Jeezy, they're going to run into each other at some point. It don't have to be at a club. It don't have to be at the mall, but the city ain't that big. Like you can't, your paths are going to cross, circles are going to cross, camps are going to cross. And so that was like always the fear. So even when I saw that verses that night, I didn't think the two of them would get into it, but I knew that their camps, because I think they filmed that at Magic City, if I'm not mistaken. And like if you've been to Magic City, there's a whole bunch of stuff around Magic City, but ain't but a couple of different ways you can go when you leave. And it's all exposed. And I was like, man, something going. And I was so happy that nothing happened that night. But yeah, that was a crazy verses. But yeah, you're right, man. I probably was a little too old for Dipset. I remember Ballin'. I remember, the anthem. I remember the hits. I just never got into Dipset. I do understand and understand their movement and stuff like that, but I was just a little too, I probably checked out by then. My honorable mentions, some of the ones you've already mentioned. I got Hit 'Em Up. Hit 'Em Up did not make my top 5. This probably going to surprise a lot of people. And here's why. And I say this all the time, and it's worth repeating. If Hit 'Em Up was just Tupac's verse, I would put it at number 1. No disrespect to the Outlaws. He should have kept them off that record. I think they bring down the record. I mean, you got his rant, you got his verse, you got him starting off the song, you got them stealing the Get Money beat. That's perfect. It was perfect. You got vintage Tupac. Venom and all, full of piss and vinegar. And once some other dudes start rapping, it takes away. So I can't put it. Most people have it in their top 5. I'm not going to argue. Some people got it at 1. Cool. I can't put it in the top 5 because them dudes, they just, and it's like you said, it's a fade. If Dolemite, me and you fighting, we fighting. It's me and you. You don't need no help from nobody else. And Pac didn't need their help.
I think what Pac did was something that like we out here do. Like I'm gonna let my little homies beat you up.
Right.
So I think the sentiment was like some real West Coast type shit. Like I'm gonna let my little homies handle you. But at the same time, like you said, it was like you should have did this one on me.
Mm-hmm.
Like we didn't want to hear the little homies.
He did the same thing Cube did. After Cube left MWA, it was Cube and it was the Lynch Mob. Then it was Pac. He made his alliance with, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, I get it.
I get it too.
If you want to take off the verses, that's cool. They not the best, but I can remember them all though.
Oh, no question.
That's the thing about
they
it.
Catch
like,
you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it goes like, get out the way, yo. I can't not hear that.
Right.
On that track, you know what I'm saying? But to Pac's defense, shit, we only really talk about what he say at the end of the record and at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's
like
true.
I said, the rest of the song is womp, 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 womp. That's, that was how I prefaced it. Like, nigga, you here, that's why I fucked your bitch, you fat motherfucker. And then everything at the end of it.
And then we start dancing to most of it.
Exactly.
And then we start hearing them cuss out people.
Exactly, because on some real shit, I feel the same way about Hit 'Em Up, Ether, and They Not Like Us.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 songs, the impact of them was they were good music.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Ether didn't have that beat, we wouldn't be talking about Ether like that.
No.
Like that beat was crazy. Like that beat is so cold that whenever somebody is dissing somebody just talking, they'll play the Ether beat.
They just play the Ether beat. Yes. Hell yeah,
Yeah,
they just
like
play
it.
it.
You
Even
know,
to
because like
this
I said,
day.
like what are the quotables of Ether?
How many rhymes? How many Biggie rhymes you gonna come out your fat lips?
Is that really like
I mean, it's
dope?
not a.
Like, you know,
Well, it addresses the
you
fact that
36 in a karate class, you
Tybo
Tybo
ho.
ho.
I've
Like,
said that before. Yeah.
you know, like that. It was like, you know, scared to smile. They called you ugly. Like, it wasn't all that, honestly. You know, because like I've had this debate with people about like my personal diss tracks, because this is my the list. This ain't my
Yes.
personal list. My personal list, like I got No Vaseline 1, 300 bars 2, and then like all the big ones, pause, they not even on the list. Like Hit 'Em Up ain't even on my list. Ether not on my list, but because of the impact, like you can't leave them off
leave
because
them off, right?
30 years later they're still being talked about by literally everybody.
Facts.
You know, because like I feel like Euphoria, after the They Not Like Us trance wears off, everybody's gonna be able to really truly appreciate Euphoria. But right now, while we dancing, They Not Like Us is still ringing.
That is actually my number 7, my honorable mention, Euphoria. I have it above Not Like Us, and Not Like Us is a jam, but Euphoria, like I said, it's 6 minutes of bars, and I mean, like he doesn't waste any time. He gets right to it, and he tell you, I'm the biggest hater, and he proceeds to tell you why he hates this guy. I mean, like he really don't like this guy. Number 8, I shared with Dolemite, Story of Adidon. That was, like you said, the first chink in Drake's armor. And, you know, I thought actually as bad as Drake lost, I thought it was a good look that he didn't really stumble, you know, to his credit. And, you know, some of the Drake fans, they were a little bit beyond me because they were, oh, well, who's Pusha T? I'm like, bro, if you got to ask who Pusha T is in this beef, you really don't know hip hop.
And
so they tried to make it sound like,
honestly,
you know, he's got
like
more money.
The Duppy freestyle was super dope too.
Yeah, that was dope.
It don't get
like
the credit
that.
it deserves.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Duppy was super dope, but Adidon was like.
And then the art cover in blackface, listen, he's lucky they ain't get him canceled. So
that's what I'm saying.
Then at 9, I got Dre Day. Like you said, the difference between Dre Day and Real Motherfucking G's was that, at least for us in the South, Dre Day got a lot.
Hit.
Oh, yes. It was a huge,
Yeah.
it was a radio.
It was definitely the bigger hit.
Yeah, it was a radio hit. And, you know, the video was out. And, man, I never forget, MTV played that video every single day. If you missed it on Rap City, you was going to catch it on MTV. And then, you know, I mean, it catapulted Dre and Snoop into the stratosphere as far as pop culture was concerned. And then number 10, I got Against All Odds. Tupac, Machiavelli. I think
one of my favorite songs.
I think this is a better diss record than Hit 'Em Up. Just pure dissing, I think it's better than Hit 'Em Up.
Chino XL, fuck you too. Rest in peace, Chino XL.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Rest in peace to Chino XL. He
I don't even know what
recently
Chino.
passed.
Yeah, he did like a couple of weeks ago. I don't even know what he did to Tupac, but he caught us straight.
He said that he got since we on YouTube, I can't say the word, but he had some relations in prison against his will.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, he had like a bar in one of his freestyles where he said, "Get such and such like Tupac in prison."
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, he went to everybody: Biggie, Mobb Deep, Puff, Nas, Jay-Z, Jimmy Henchman, and Haitian Jack. And I'd be remiss.
Where he got the F as a staff record label and as a crew.
Exactly. Number 11,
I say that all the time. If I don't like you, I'm going to say F you as a staff record label and as a motherfucking crew. Like, I'm saying that all the time.
All the time. That's a quotable. I'd be remiss if I didn't give you number 11. Classic. I don't even know if these guys weren't even born yet. 1984, Roxanne's Revenge. Roxanne going at UTFO. Oh yeah, y'all born 82. My bad.
We
Y'all
82
were two.
babies. We
82 babies.
we got your 10 years, 10 specifically.
And
we
my
both 82
last
babies.
my last honorable mention, just a personal one because I saw this one play out. No More Playing GA, Pastor Troy versus No Limit. This one was funny for me because
let me speak to P.
I remember, man, it was Hot 97's birthday bash here in Atlanta, a local radio station, and they wanted Pastor Troy because he had this song out. They wanted him to be one of the headliners, and word has it that P called the radio station like, "Look, I'll come and do it for free if y'all don't, let him do it." And so they was like, "Okay, well, we'll." I mean, at the time the tank was rolling, so they brought in Master P. So I'm at Birthday Bash, and Master P is in his set, and all you hear is, "We ready, we ready." People, and Master P stopped his set. He's like, "Man, what's wrong with y'all?" I mean, but it was like you said, Baylor, like you said earlier, Dolemite, your city are going to get behind the people from your city. And so it's us versus everybody. And you never go against your city. You never go against the turf. No, because that's where you're from. And so Master P literally was behind, not that anybody was going to do anything to Master P, but he was behind enemy lines. Anyway, so Goody Mob comes on at the end of the show, and they bring out Pastor Troy. And Pastor Troy, when I tell you, you could feel the ground moving when he hit that stage. And he did No More Playing GA before they cut the sound off. And I think they'll never admit it, but I think Master P was behind his sound getting cut off. They said it was a timing issue, but I think P did something to that. But
absolutely,
the tank was still rolling.
Multi-millionaire.
Oh yeah, and I mean, again, same thing like KRS-One and MC Shan. Who was Pastor Troy at the time to Master P at the time was a hip hop mogul. He was as big as Puff. He was bigger than Jay-Z. And he responded to some dude, and the rest was history. And of course, he didn't kill his career, but shortly thereafter, Master P's No Limit Tank kind of went off the road. And, people started dropping off or whatever like that, and the tank stopped rolling. People I think they kind of got tired of him. But long story short, but yeah, No More Playing GA. Always will get bump in my ride. Yeah, man. So that's it, man. We have done.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Buckshot, Noriega, Jigga, cool. Cannabis, Wu-Tang's my niggas, cool. Jam Spot, but fuck Ja Rule.
I'm telling you, nigga, like, how do you not have calling out names?
Oh,
like, when
my
you said
God.
Corrupt, I thought you was going to say calling out names.
Listen,
that's crazy.
And I love Corrupt.
The list that you came up with, plus with 12K, dog, all of them can get in that top 5.
Yeah.
Like,
just,
how did you not have calling out names?
I'll probably play, I know I played New York. I played Euphoria, No Vaseline. I play those the most. But I play calling out, I play that album more than anything. So it's like, dog, everybody can't go, but it's there.
Yeah, because 21 Gun Salute is my second favorite Tupac song, but I forgot it was a diss song.
Against All Odds.
Yep. Man.
In the studio getting blowed is be the realest shit I ever wrote.
Man, I couldn't get away from that song. You gotta understand, when it come to Pac, even if my brother didn't put me up on Pac, because my brother is we 7 years apart. I stayed around essays too. All they did was play Pac. That's all they play is Pac.
Yeah, that's all their favorite artists, and they can't stand us.
My bad. Go ahead. What you say, Dolemite?
Go ahead. No, I'm just saying they don't like us, but they love Pac.
And picture that. One of the hardest things, man, was going back to that Machiavelli album, because that Machiavelli album comes out right after Pac dies. And man, I probably maybe about a month or so ago, man, I went back and listened to it, man, and it felt good because I hadn't heard it in a while, but then I started getting mad just because I was like, man, this dude should be here, man. Like, he really,
Blasphemy is my favorite Pac song.
Man, a lot of cats should be here right now, man.
Man,
Blasphemy is like my That's like I used to call it the real nigga national anthem.
Mm. Yeah, and for those
Like
of you
I
who
love blasphemy.
early, I got on Pac with Tupacalypse Now because I want to say it came out my freshman year in college, I think, or maybe right before I graduated from high school. It was 91. And I was hooked. I was hooked like from that point on. And I was always been a fan. But yeah, listening to the Machiavelli album, and I'm one of the few people who I enjoy Machiavelli better than I do All Eyes on Me. All Eyes on Me is probably the most popular, but I think at least for me personally, it's Me Against the World, Machiavelli, then All Eyes on Me as far as ranking Tupac's albums. But yeah, that listen, that album front to back, cold. But yeah, man, we have done it. We have presented our certified top 5 as well as some honorable mentions. Before we get out of here, Baylor, tell folks where they can find you, where they can find both of your podcasts, and where they can hit you up at.
I'll put a little pressure on you for the next one. I think we should do debut videos.
Ooh.
And I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna give a cliffhanger. Chief Keef is in my top 5 when it comes to debut videos. I'm just letting y'all know that off the bat.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Chief
But
Keef. The debut would be Like That. I think that's the name of the song? Don't Like.
Don't
yeah.
Like.
Okay.
That video was at Baylorism on TikTok, at Baylorism on Twitter, BTG for President, Open Run with BTG, part of the Red Sonnets Network. That's it.
Okay. What about you, Dolemite?
Uncle Dolemite on all social media platforms. Too Much Game Podcast, TOO, because I ain't never been number 2 on all streaming platforms. Yeah, and if y'all want to see any of my comedy, follow Uncle Dolemite on Instagram or Uncle Dolly Jokes. That's where I post all my flyers and where I'm going to be. And my clips is on TikTok and my YouTube, which is Uncle Dolemite.
Definitely. These are my boys. Y'all support them. You guys, well, you should know where to find me because this is a new venture. If maybe some of you are here for the first time, this is my new baby, the Rap Soul Podcast. Do yourself a favor, do me a favor, subscribe. Again, I say this is the intersection between rap and soul music from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So subscribe. And then once you subscribe, share it. Share it with a friend who enjoys rap music, hip hop music, soul, and R&B music just as much as you do. We're on YouTube, Rap Soul Podcast. You can listen to this podcast wherever you're listening right now, but we're on all streaming platforms, the Rap Soul Podcast. You can follow us on social media. You can follow me at 12Kyle or the podcast, Rap Soul Podcast, on all social media, Twitter, IG, Facebook. We also have a Reddit channel. So if you'd like to continue this discussion and leave comments, go to our Reddit page, the Rap Soul Podcast. Jump in there, give us your 5 and your honorable mention. And if you don't like our 5, you could tell us what you don't like about it. We don't care, but but I appreciate all feedback and comments. Obviously, you can comment on YouTube and Facebook as well, and IG. And if you want to make a financial contribution to the podcast, you can do that as well. Unlike Dolemite and Baylor, I'm not independently wealthy. So hit me up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. Again, that's going to do it for us. So for my boys, Dolemite and Baylor, I am your boy, 12 Kyle, and this has been another edition of the Rap Soul Podcast. We'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.
Thank you for listening. This concludes the episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast. You can find the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the podcast on social media. And feel free to continue this discussion on our Reddit page. More importantly, share this podcast with a friend or family member who loves music as much as you do. Until next time, 5,000.